so much for joining me for my putting down of memories of my Italy and Greece trip. It was amazing. If you've been following along, you know that it was amazing because I keep telling you how amazing it was. and we were very blessed to be able to go on the trip. So thank you for coming along. We're going to be sharing some more videos, some photos, and then taking that, being inspired by it, and putting it in the journal. I really appreciate you being here with me to walk down memory lane and enjoy our time in Italy and Greece. Friends, on the left you will see a postcard that I picked up in Athens, and if you saw the last video, you might remember that I picked up a bunch of postcards there because I didn't have as much time to take photographs as I would have liked because we were riding bikes through Athens, which I don't recommend. At any rate, here we are, May 13th, 2024. We went to Santorini, Greece. Before I read to you my journaling entry that you can see right there, I want to tell you that Santorini, if that's like sort of on your bucket list to go see it, I will tell you this, it's not all it's cracked up to be. So it's interesting, but if you plan to go to Greece just to go to Santorini, I would change my plans and I would go see some other places as well. The picture I added on the bottom is a picture of Carl and I on the ferry from the ship over to the island of Santorini. While I'm working on the journal, I want to tell you about our little day trip to Santorini. So when we got there, it was extremely busy. There were 4 other cruise ships that had pulled into port, which made it very crowded. And so there's 3 ways to get on top of this island, and to get to the part that you see in the photos and all that good stuff, you have to get to the top. So there's 3 ways, as I mentioned. There's a path, there's donkeys, and there's a lift. So the lift, to get up there, was 2.5 hours wait in line just to get on it. And it wasn't a full day that we had there, so that would have eaten up so much of our day. Then there was the path. But the problem with the path was that it was walked by the donkeys and there was donkey dew everywhere and it smelled awful. Like I've been around horses my whole life, and it was so intense. It was gross. And plus I didn't want that all over my shoes. And we had just ridden bikes in Athens the day before, so I was pretty tired from that. So then we could have ridden the donkeys, but they looked sketchy to me. Like I just had a sense that I didn't want to do that. So we opted to stay down at the bottom. And believe it or not, probably most people go straight to the top and do whatever's going on up there. We stayed at the bottom, and there was plenty of things for us to go do. So we went shopping and we walked around, and it was very pretty. I would say it was as pretty at the bottom as it was on the top, but just not as big. I would say that for sure. So that's what we did. We took some photos and went shopping and went to a little place, and I got some baklava. Again, that was my second serving of baklava. Now, the baklava that I got on the ferry was better than this baklava, but it was still delicious because, it was baklava. So I did get more of that, which was great. When we got in line to get onto the ferry to get back to our ship, we spoke to a girl who had made her way up to the top, and she said we really didn't miss anything. She said that it was basically the same as the bottom. It was just bigger. She said the view was great, which I'm sure that it was. But I was glad that we didn't drive ourselves crazy trying to get up to the top, and it made me feel better that we didn't miss that much. So I felt good about that. That evening on the ship for dinner, Carl got lasagna, I got gluten-free pizza, and then for dessert, Carl got cannolis, and I got panna cotta, and I had never had that before, and it was very, very good. As you can see in the journal, I've added some pictures
On the left-hand side, it says milk chocolate with raisins and hazelnuts. And we actually picked up a box of that in Santorini. It was delicious. Carl ate most of it because he couldn't stay out of it. But yeah, that was great. So I wanted to put a piece of the box here in the journal. Then with the pictures that I've popped in, I just made a note of how small the door is that Carl is standing next to. I was shocked by the door. And then I put in that I was having my second helping of baklava and that we had an Italian dinner on the ship that evening. Coming up the next day is Olympia, and it was one of my very favorite places that we visited. I can't really explain why, but I think it was beautiful there. So that was one thing. And there was a lot of greenery, a lot of trees, and the history was absolutely amazing. Almost every morning, Carl and I did a selfie, and there was two reasons. But the main reason is I had gone shopping for some new outfits, and I was sharing that with some of my family and friends. So I'd snap the selfie, and then Carl wanted to get in on it, which was great. And then I would send that off to them if I had Wi-Fi, and I was able to do that. So I've added a picture of Carl and I in our outfits for the day, and that dress that I got was one of the very favorite things that I had bought for the trip. As you can see, I am choosing some pictures to put on the right hand side of the journal. And on the left hand side, I'm going to end up gluing in my journaling page that I had typed out. I'm going to read that to you shortly. But before I do, I want to mention something that you're getting ready to see. I had gone thrifting, I don't know, a year or so ago, and I found these mini, they weren't really postcards, they were like these little informational cards, these right here. And I found them at the thrift store, and I picked them up because I thought that might be cool to put in a journal. Little did I know I'd be able to put them in my own journal. So these are actually pictures of Olympia. And it was really, I took a lot of pictures there, but it was really cool to have something like this that had even better pictures in it. I will end up popping those in the journal in some pockets that I'll create, but that's, I think, on the next page. As I'm adding some photos to this page, I want to share a few things about Olympia. And I put these on the journaling paper that you see on the left. But I wrote that Olympia is one of the most famous archaeological sites in Greece. The Olympic flame ceremony is held there every 4 years. So they still do the flame ceremony there, which I think is really cool. And when our guide was sharing that with us, it really made her very emotional. And I thought that was really neat that it's just something that she held so close to her heart. And maybe that's one of the reasons that I loved Olympia so much, because I actually love watching the Olympics. So it was just, there was so many neat and interesting things about it. And it was so cool and such a wonderful experience. Olympia was the birthplace of the most famous and important sporting event in the ancient world. The Olympic Games took place every 4 years from 776 BC to 393 AD. The site was also a place of worship dedicated to the Greek god Zeus from about the 10th century BC. And it was really cool for us to be able to see the ruins. We saw the actual starting line of where they had the races because it was made out of marble and it was still there. And that was fascinating. There was a walk of shame that was not, it wasn't perfect because the statues were gone, but you could still see where those statues were, and you could see the names of the cheaters and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to read a little bit more from my journal entry. I wrote that the Roman Emperor Thaddeus abolished pagan festivals. Oh, and the name wasn't Thaddeus, it's Theodosius. And then Theodosius II had the temples destroyed in 426. Earthquakes further damaged the ruins in 522 and 551, Mudslides and silt from the Claudius River eventually covered much of the area, helping to preserve the site. And that I found interesting. Like the track that we went down to was covered for over 1,000 years with water. And the fact that they've been able to excavate that is amazing. While we were there, I was taking lots and lots of pictures, as I had mentioned before. And some of the things I was taking pictures of, I didn't know what it was. So when I got home, if I went to Google and described what I saw and where I was at, I frequently was able to find out what I was actually taking a picture of, which is great. And I love history, so I love sort of doing this detective work to figure out what I've been able to capture. So on the upper left-hand side, you see that structure with 3 columns. It is called Philippion, and it was created in 338 BC, and it's only one of 2 structures that were dedicated to a human on Olympia. The center picture is inside of the museum there at Olympia, and it is a wall of Roman helmets. You can see that I'm creating a note here, and the note basically says how small the helmets are. To see them hanging in this picture, you can't tell if they're large or small. But to see them in person, you realize very quickly they're tiny, like they could fit children. It's absolutely amazing. I'm going to create a pocket on this page because I want to insert those cards that I found at the thrift store. I do not want to glue those down because there's a picture on the front and then there's information on the back. So as mentioned, I'm creating a pocket so I can slide all of those in pockets. You can see there's already an upper pocket, but I didn't want to put all of them in there, so I decided I'd go ahead and create another one on the same page. I have flipped back over to the previous page because I need to go ahead and add some more photos to this. In the upper right hand corner, I'm adding a photo of the statue of Nike, and actually it is pronounced Nikki. That is how the Greeks pronounced her name. We changed it to Nike. The myth goes that she is the goddess of victory. She served Zeus in the war against the Titans, and afterward gave the victors of battles wreaths of laurel. The next picture I'm adding is a statue of Faustina the Elder. She was a Roman empress and the wife of Roman Emperor Antonius Pius. This next picture is a clay head of Athena, created in the 5th century BC. Athena was the goddess of wisdom, warfare, and handicraft. And she was a member of the 12 Olympians. I kept our excursion tickets. Both Carl and I had to have tickets. And I was going to alternate using his and mine, but a lot of his he must have put in his pocket, and they were sort of a ragged mess. So most of the ones I'm saving are mine. But you could see it was the yellow ticket that I had put in the upper left-hand corner on the page where the pockets are. I'm going to add a few embellishments to the pocket and to some of the previous pages. And then this is going to wrap up this video. For the next video in this series, I'll be sharing our visit to Malta Valletta as well as Sicily. Friends, I appreciate you taking this journey with me. Thanks for watching. See you soon.